Welcome to Farscape,
a Farscape fan cast by a fervent fan
and a fresh-faced first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay, and this is the story.
Farscape. I think we're getting better at it.
I think so too.
And the show's getting better as well. Although it takes a little while to find its footing. Like you can see, well, this is the second episode, and everything's still sort of being explored.
So I'm curious to see what's going to happen to Crichton and the crew.
Well, yes, but which is a good summary for every episode.
Well, yes, but they've now escaped to the forbidden sect. No, the
uncharted territories.
The uncharted territories.
Good.
Yes.
So, do you have any favorites?
Emerging
between already
in the crew already.
Yeah.
That's a good, difficult question. I don't think any of them have had enough development for me to start playing favorites. I mean, I love the pilot because he just looks cool.
I know.
And Rigel is more for cretin than cretin, but...
Hey, as I recall, you were going to have some guesses for who did the voice for pilot.
I have no idea. I was like, I sat there and mused about it, and I could not come up with anything. So who is it?
It's Lani Tupu. It's the same actor as Crace.
Who's Crace?
Captain Bail Organa.
Oh, it is actually. Oh, so he's actually in there. So
yeah.
He didn't do the commander from the Peacekeepers, but the voice of.
Wait, no. That's the same actor. It's the Peacekeeper
Sorry,
commander.
I thought you meant the actual.
No, you called him Captain Bail Organa.
Right? No, I thought you were actually referring to the actor who plays the actual Bail Organa.
No, that would be Jimmy Smits. That would be quite again, and would be ashamed to use an actor of that caliber and such a gorgeous man just as voice.
I mean, back in the day, he played in Miami Vice, didn't he? Yes.
Oh, I think so.
I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he was on that show.
He was a villain in Dexter once.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
I mean, Dexter does take place in Miami, doesn't it?
There you go.
I wonder if he and Edward Olmos have ever faced off on screen.
Oh,
what a
if he was in Miami Vice,
scene that would be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would have been great. Shall we get on with the show?
Yes.
Prepare to starburst.
So this episode originally aired as the 7th in a row because the network, I forget which one it was, originally wanted to start with more action
because it was probably considered a little bit more character development.
Yeah, right.
And I can kind of see why they did it because there's no real transference between the first episode and this one. It's kind of just like, apparently now we are here. I mean, there's a little bit. But it starts with there's an alarm going off on the ship, and the
really annoying alarm.
And the scuttlebutts are in a lot of distress.
Yes, they're having a little conniption party over there.
Yes, they are. As is our main character. I forgot his name again. Crichton? No, not Crichton.
John Crichton.
John Crichton.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, John Crichton. There we go. Close enough.
He's having the fun eye twitch, and he's worried that it might be melting his brain.
He was. I mean, kudos to the actor. He kept that up for a good long time, and he was just
so annoying.
It must have been keep twitching that, and
it particularly annoyed Aeryn. Stop doing that at me. That you do.
Don't do that at me.
What?
That.
Apparently, so this must be another indication that there are some physiological differences between them because it doesn't bother her. And it is him, and he's just sitting there going pulling these amazing faces.
And also some cultural differences because this gesture probably means something to her that is extremely rude.
There's that.
That's why she's like, can you just stop doing that? Can you stop flipping me off?
I hadn't considered that, but yes.
It's like the facial equivalent of doing the wee-wee dance.
Oh, well, yes.
Did you notice that Rigel had that problem as well? Rigel was also rubbing his eyes and...
but he does that a lot. That's
true.
That's another. That's whenever he considers himself to be put upon, or I was like, what am I putting up with these fools? And he's just dramatically rubbing his eyebrows.
Yeah, that's right. So they're discussing what to do, and they locate. Basically like a little kitty hatch, which you've got all over the place with little scuttle buddies to get.
I guess that's about right. Yeah, and apparently the alarm's coming from.
And everybody takes a turn sticking their head through, and then not saying anything. But look, Dargo sticks his head through, and then he looks up reproachfully at Aeryn, and then she sticks her head through, and then she looks up cluelessly at John.
And I was like, what are we looking at? Are we looking at space rats? Are we looking at space slugs?
Yeah.
What's going on? I was really trying to work out what it is that was causing this alarm.
Well, I recognized the design of the... it looked like the bridge of the Peacekeeper command carriers. These circular patterns of white, red, and black.
I thought that was part of Moya rather than part of the device which was planted there, as we soon find out.
Exactly.
It's not an alarm that's going off. It's basically a signal which is being sent.
Yeah, they call it a paddock beacon.
It's a paddock beacon.
Oh.
Never specifying what a paddock is.
No.
Like it's one of those alien
But
words.
apparently it is placed at the same time as the control collar was that we saw in the first episode.
Yeah.
And not having received its signal from the control collar for a sufficient amount of time, is now sending out a distress call, saying that apparently the control collar has been slipped and the ship is now... not derelict, but like broken free. Rogue, yes.
Yeah, we've got a rogue Leviathan on our
escaped,
hand.
yeah.
So Pilot, in his huge, cavernous, gorgeous den that's sort of vaulted, and it seems to like have a deep pit below it, and he's sitting there.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm starting to wonder if he's like, for Pirates of the Caribbean, part of the crew, part of the ship. It's like, is he like? I mean, is he actually a separate entity, or is he like part of the biomechanical construct, or is he a symbiote with Moira? It's like, I know I probably shouldn't be asking these questions.
These are great questions, Kay. No, we'll discover a lot about that. But meantime, like he's sitting there in his control den on his own, where he seems to be quite happy with his four sort of clawed tentacles, like a mutant version of Animal from the Muppets.
Pincers. Yeah, it's not entirely clear what his limbs are like.
And he manages to turn off the at least the audio portion of the
he
alarm.
suppresses it basically. He says,
Yeah.
I got the impression that what he was doing was basically putting it out anti-sound.
Pilot, good work. You've stopped it.
I have only neutralized the internal sound. The device itself is still broadcasting some kind of signal into deep space, using Moya's hull as a maximizer.
It's using my skull as a maximizer. Why am I still twitching?
So
that's right.
Yeah, so at least we can't hear it anymore inside. We're still broadcasting the signal, but at least...
Still with Crichton's eye as
yes,
well.
you can still, the twitching does continue until he leaves the ship.
So they have a surprising amount of... I mean, it's not exactly technobabble that they do here. Like, they talk about all the potential consequences of... And they just sort of describe the problem at each other while they're standing in a hallway. Like, you can tell this is early on in the series, and the writers are still getting a feel for how to deliver this kind of drama.
Right. Also, it helps explain things to the viewer, of course, which is the main purpose of that text,
because it's
I suppose.
a pretty cool problem. Like Moya itself, the Moira, pardon me, her hull is being used as an amplifier for the signal.
And it uses her own power against her, basically.
And the device is also like locked into the central neural nexus.
Yes, one of her more sensitive areas.
Is it maybe your G-spot? Is maybe a space clitoris?
Oh dear, that seems... Yes,
well, but that's part of
possible.
Part of the stakes, because it's an immensely like sensitive and painful place for
this thing to be put. And one of the scuttlebots gets sent in, which immediately gets zapped by this device because
The device won't allow a DRD or anything metal near it.
nothing metal apparently is allowed to approach it.
Yeah, Aeryn knew that, and she did try to stop the scuttlebot.
Yes.
But there's some tension as Dargo confronts her with, "Why didn't you tell us this was here?"
And why didn't you tell us about this?
Well, not all Leviathan transports have them. I had no way of knowing.
Yes, and she gets called a Peacekeeper commando, despite the fact she's a pilot, not a commando, but yeah, whatever. Infantry, was she?
She is infantry.
No, she was a pilot.
No, they literally say infantry. Apparently, like being infantry in a space military means that you fly as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a little bit like Space Above and Beyond, which is also has
the Marines are ground pounders and
pilots, which makes no sense whatsoever, because like you would never have someone with this specialized training of a pilot actually being a ground pounder and like a beachhead taker. That's like no, you don't. Whatever.
It's space, baby.
It is space. It's like stuff in space. So they go looking for a place. Like, what can we do? And our great human scientist thinks like, we have a signal going out. How can we dampen it? We can just dampen it by putting it in
Water.
It's brilliant. It
is.
Really is, because this is not something that like spacefarers regularly think about.
Apparently not. No.
And he's just sort of optimistic and just assumes that Moya could do it. Like, he remembers like the third planet in this system is 30% surface moisture.
Yes.
And so we can land it there. I mean, Moya can do that, can't she?
Well, she can do that, right?
And then they go like, oh, well, it's not been done before.
Right?
Well, at first they all sort of look at each other like, I don't know.
Pilot, do you know?
Pilot?
Exactly. And Zhaan asked Pilot, because Zhaan is the one who asked the sensible question. And I liked how he talked about that young Leviathans like to play with the planet's gravity.
Yeah, see how close they can get and get in. And like there was this tale of one Leviathan who apparently once landed, but apparently they don't know if it's actually true or not. So,
Yeah.
and is apparently where we also learned that there are two sexes of Leviathans, that there are male Leviathans and female Leviathans. So
they talk about Moya as a she.
Yes,
so
which is not unusual when talking about the ship. Ships are generally considered female. So that never really occurred to me as being actually a sexual dimorphic way of addressing a ship. But apparently, yes, so there are male and female Leviathans, which I guess makes sense. Is that how you get development of new ships? Like,
one has to wonder, right?
Is there a Darwin-esque survival of the fastest?
Have you ever do you know how whales make baby whales?
Well, the usual way, I presume, sex.
Fantastic sex.
Well, yes, but obviously being huge sea creatures, both of them sort of. It has been described to me as they charge toward each other and both of them leap into the sky.
Yes.
Belly to belly. Like they actually breach the water
as well.
And crash back down. Like, there's some cinematic metaphors directly derived from that. But this is
true.
This is the actual business. So what's it like?
Also, have you ever seen footage of a whale swimming on his back with his penis sticking out of the water?
No, I have not.
I mean, this is like
I'm not one of those sex perverts on the internet.
This is a good cause of where you think that the tales of sea monsters may come from, because it looks like a fucking big pink tentacle coming up out of the water. And, this is like, if you see that shit, then your first thought would not go towards penis of a sea creature, but more towards a tentacle of a sea monster. Yes. Yeah. Hentai, eat your heart out.
It is a remarkable reproductive structure.
One has to wonder what it looks like for Leviathans, but...
I mean, they have their space proboscis. Proboscis, is that the word?
Proboscis,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Moya has those three things at the back which for the space field or whatever thing
yes,
is.
It's got she's got a three pronged tail.
Right, yes, and that might, I mean, who knows how that might be sex involved? I don't know. It's like, we're going to have making little spaceships. I mean, does it also require a shipyard?
Come on, baby, bring it! Yeah, you know you want some of this!
That's like a boudoir.
I was going to say, is that like the Love Motel equivalent of...
Nothing quite so salacious in this episode. Gosh, they should have had you in the writer's room. It would have been a much spicier show right from the start. But we do get, and it was to me like a spectacular landing sequence. Going through the atmosphere and dragging the fire trail behind them and
zooming over the bogs, or was it fens? I mean, they call them bogs, but did they test the pH?
It's like, okay, now tell me exactly what they are. Do you remember the whole list? What's a fen, swamp, marsh, and bog?
The difference between a marsh and a swamp is whether it's mostly land or mostly water, I believe. And the difference between a fen and a bog is one is alkaline and the other one is acidic, and I forgot which one is which, but I honestly don't know.
This is clear for both of us.
Yes, we're out of our depth here. As Moira is going to be soon, because as soon as she lands in the water, she starts sinking in.
Yes, much to the concern of Rigel, who was already very concerned. Like, did you notice that he was trying to make a safety belt for himself?
Oh yes, he was trying to hook himself in, and he was someone help hold me down. And
wait, I'm not ready. Oh.
I mean, nobody else can either. There's no... They don't have, brace positions. They just sort of wedge themselves between two
weird,
of the...
isn't it?
Guess we can turn off the fasten seatbelt sign now.
I mean, it makes me wonder what Moira's original purpose was. I mean, she's been drafted into being a prisoner transport, but I mean, what's the original purpose of Leviathans? It's I mean, again, it's probably one of those questions that we will learn about later in the series.
Clearly, to remain spaceborne.
Well, yes, that's this is very unusual.
To be in battle, because she has no defensive capabilities other than starburst.
Right, and no offensive capabilities either.
We have no weapons, so I suggest a tactical retreat.
So there's really there's really no reason for her to ever be shook.
No, I guess not. That makes sense. And if she has enough inertial control and artificial gravity, which she clearly does.
Yeah.
So yes, next we see Crichton and Aeryn, which I still need to get a good nickname for, in a uncomfortable embrace wedged in a corner of the bridge.
Everybody's sort of holding on for dear life.
Floor onto something, people!
And I love how they're they're in this embrace, and just neither of them are really paying attention to each other.
They're kind of cool with it, hanging on to each other as Moira starts sinking into the bog or into the fen,
into the mud.
Because
that's the thing that really concerns Rigel.
Yes.
He has a terror fit.
Apparently, his species is aquatic.
He goes, yes, water, not mud.
Aquatic? That's water, not mud. Mud is mud.
And then, yes, he has a whole rant about the evils of mud and how it's cloying and it covers everything.
You can't breathe in it. You can't move in it. It holds you. It grabs you. It sucks you down. You want to know about mud? I know about mud.
And Crichton's like, huh?
God knows mud.
The other thing that they want this planet for is to find an anesthetic for Moira.
There's a list of 7 prohibited items, 6 or 7 prohibited cargoes which you're not allowed to transport on a Leviathan. And
yes, and one of them it numbs the
chromium
Leviathan.
Yes, chromium.
Chlorium.
Is it actual chromium or
Chlorium?
Or
Chlorium.
Chlorium. That's the one.
That's
yes.
the one.
Okay, chlorium.
And Zhaan knows apparently a lot about it, calls it an element,
yes.
which I thought was, and it's an isotope of twinium.
Which seems a little bit like weird science, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, maybe the Babel bugs are just having a little...
I suppose.
Are just doing their best.
This would be new elements, which seems unlikely.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of blanking over the science here.
I love this flat, unimpressed look that
Aeryn
gives it, which is just okay, she's totally not impressed. And just as they go out onto the planet, there's
that's her resting what face.
Oh yeah, it's bitch, what? When they basically start sneaking around, they've got this scanner which they're using to find this chlorium. And they soon encounter the local space rednecks.
What? Or space cops? I mean, they were sort of militarized.
These were the rednecks. These were clearly the rednecks.
How could you tell?
They didn't have the gas masks and the uniforms. They had different weapons and everything. This was clearly the local rednecks going out and checking.
They had a bunch of dogs though with a weird bark.
Right. Yeah, which the military that later shows up clearly don't have. So this was the local space rednecks.
Okay, no, I'll go with it. Yeah. So you've got the planetary Hicks, and we've got the unlikely trio of Darko, Crichton, and Aeryn.
Yes.
2 of whom are not built for stealth.
No.
Stealth is no longer an option.
And they have this great little exchange about the sort of chlorium detector.
This particle analyzer is defective. It's Peacekeeper technology. You use it.
And Aeryn won't even touch it.
Techs use them, not the infantry.
Yeah.
She won't even, this instrument, she won't even touch it.
Yeah.
It's totally beneath her, so we already get a glimpse of class systems within.
Yeah. So Crichton grabs it, and Tentacles and Aeryn decide to create a diversion, which Tentacles does by doing some shouting a big challenge at them, which gets them shot at, and then Aeryn just does some weird howl. And that apparently this is enough to draw off the space rednecks and
they
allow
frighten easily, but they'll soon be back and in greater numbers.
Yes, and allow Crichton to go off and follow the detector undetected.
Very good.
Until he finds a homestead, I suppose it is, with a huge antenna system.
Yes, he finds basically radio telescope shack.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's not much in the way of deflector dishes. It's more long beams and gantries and stuff like that. But
and entering the barnyard, still following his sort of a divining dildo.
Yes.
Well, it's just like a VCR, except easier.
Sources it down to fertilizer.
Fertilizer?
Yeah, he's in some sort of weird barn. Well, it's not really a weird barn, but he points his wand at several of the things there, and he thinks this is all very much like Earth until he finds a weird lamp.
Yeah, a light bulb with
in it, which
looked like a Celtic cruciform
something
LED shape in it.
A local boy comes wandering into the...
an apple-cheeked, freckle-faced...
Bobby Freckles, I believe, is
Bobby... Okay, well, yeah, yes, sure.
Typical fresh-faced kid. Apparently he's 9 years old, as we learn later.
You are the luckiest 9-year-old around.
And they can actually converse with each other, which...
is I mean, the fact that Crichton can understand him, that makes sense because he's had his implants.
The Babel bugs.
Yes, the Babel bugs.
They colonize at the base of the brain. Allow us to understand each other.
So when it aired, there was a companion site on the Sci-Fi Channel, as it was still called at the time, and there would be little bits of information as if Pilot was holding his own reports about the series. And one of them was that they detected translator microbes in the soil, suggesting that the planet had previously had extraterrestrial visits, and that's why they'd be able to communicate.
Right, despite the fact that they were supposed to be injected, but yeah,
suggesting that these microbes are just part of the local microfauna.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And that this may be common made me think throughout large portions of the universe where even uncontacted species may have had just a spaceship crashes at some point and one of the corpses rots and introduces translator microbes.
That's an interesting thing that got me thinking later on in the episode. Yeah, there's nothing established about this planet. It just happens to be here. We just happen to be near this planet, as in the ship is.
Yeah.
And yet this is apparently an uncontacted planet.
So they're traveling through the uncharted territories.
Oh, yeah,
that's where
right. At the end of the last episode, they said, take us to the uncharted territories.
Destination?
The uncharted territories.
I forgot about that, but yeah, that makes sense. It makes a little bit more sense, at least, like that. And then you've got the theory that there might have been some sort of contact.
But apparently none that the aliens on this planet remember. The boy is frightened.
Yeah, at first he's looks like fairly similar to him, but then they clearly have the ears and the cheekbones are quite different on them. And he runs away back into the house. Crichton follows him, and little Freckles grabs his space BB gun. And, which might not actually have. I don't even know what it does.
Fostro knows what it does.
I don't know. Maybe do we know that it's just not just like his local equivalent of a BB gun that just happens to have a weird effect on human beings when you shoot them with it?
Yeah. No. Okay. That's a good. Well, his mom eventually uses it on him as well.
Later on, one of the military guys uses it on Tentacles.
Oh, that's right. That spoils it.
But I thought it was a fun theory anyway.
Yeah.
So he shoots him with it. It basically works as a whole body stunner.
I mean, it's sort of a deboner as well. Like, you notice that all my bones are
I can't feel my bones anymore. No.
What kind of move? I can't feel my body.
And it's all floppy.
I don't know about him, but I can't feel my bones anyway.
But when they stop being rigid, when your bones go...
Oh, my bones are...
Like noodles,
suppose,
you'd feel that. And also you wouldn't be able to breathe.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Things like that. And it goes I'm going to recover from this, aren't I? Right?
Right.
I'm going to recover from this, right? Completely, right?
Right.
Tell me completely, hopefully.
I don't know.
I was like, don't know what it does to you. It's like...
So Mom comes out of her radio
stop making a racket and it's like this.
I'm in the middle of a UEO event. Fostro.
What does UEO stand for?
I don't know.
But
they say they identified
UEO
extraplanetary elevated.
Yeah. Oh, that's an other thing I noticed. That at one point they actually used the word extraterrestrial.
A very real extraterrestrial event. This is not the moment for you to...
Which leads back to my...
I missed that.
Yeah, which leads back to my theory that all planets are called Earth, So Mom, Swooning Molly, I believe she's called, comes...
That's mean. I thought she was like the best thing about this episode. Lyneea...
I'm talking to an alien? You're an alien and I'm talking to you? In my kitchen?
Her attitude and her like delight and marvel and fear and all of that actually was amazing.
Oh yeah, she did it fantastically. But there was a lot of switching back and forth. I noticed, she was very. Well, not fickle is not the right word, but she did change her mood quite a lot, quite often, and quite fast.
And I think that's partly she's a bit of a manic personality by herself. I think we sort of see that Fostro is clearly more stable, or
he's probably used to dealing with his mom, who's just okay, here she goes again.
I mean, she is a wonderfully obsessed scientist, apparently with a military contract,
which is a bit weird because she's clearly out in the boonies doing her. Space search for...
I mean, that's a good place for a radio telescope.
Fair point.
Right?
Which makes me wonder why they haven't, actually contacted any other alien stuff. There seems to be a lot of ships flowing around, even in the...
Yeah, this is always the question. I mean, the Fermi paradox deals with this as well. If there are aliens out there... Why don't we see them? And probably answer number one, space is really big.
Right, but we have in this series established that a lot of alien species do contact each other and do talk with each other. And I guess maybe they are using some sort of different radio communication, which doesn't rely on...
Oh, so that they wouldn't have picked up any chatter.
Exactly, yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Although she does have a radio system which can be picked up by Moira.
Crichton, is that you? How is your signal getting through? Our comms will not penetrate the mud.
So their interaction between Crichton and I'm not going to call her Swooning Molly.
No? Okay.
Your thing.
What did you say her name was? Lydia?
Lyneea.
Lyneea. Okay.
Lyneea. And I thought Crichton's response was he completely understands her.
Oh yeah. He's been thrown into this whole weird aliens exist thing only just recently, so he knows where she's coming from, and she doesn't know that, and she doesn't buy it when he when he tries to be sympathetic, and he goes like, no, I know where you're coming from, and she goes like, yeah, right, of course you do. And
I thought it was so like the writing for his character was really kind of brilliant, because it would be fairly common for that kind of scene to be that the hero was written as a bumbling, trying to stumbling over his words. No, he thinks about what he's saying. He has thought about it before.
He literally plays into her.
That was a little bit. He says that no, we chose you.
If we wanted to contact some government, some agency, we would have. We chose you.
Yeah, that's it.
As a way to keep himself safe. Now that's manipulative.
It is very manipulative, but it's like very clever of him to it's like doing a little ego play and get her to cooperate, because especially someone who searches for extraterrestrial life. All of them have that fantasy, of course, of actually finding it and then being the one who discovers it, and that a little bit of stroking of that ego is like an easy way to get them to.
He certainly felt that himself, I'm sure, as a young little astronaut.
When I was your age, I used to dream of meeting a real live alien.
He fantasized about that as a boy as well.
And the kids just like, not so much anymore now. But
so we flip back and forth a few times to the other plot that's taking place on Moya, which was probably the weaker part, where Zhaan convinces Rigel to go in through the
little hatch, because
space Jeffries troop through
because
the
he's the only one who's small enough to actually go through.
Your encouragement is much appreciated.
And perform the necessary operation to remove this device from Moya's space
nervous system, whatever. Let's go with nervous system. That's probably the better way to go.
The neural nexus.
Yes. And he goes in there after a lot of protesting and a little bit of complaining about the tools that he is given.
What is this thing I have to cut with?
Which apparently are used by the Argo species during a formative time of their young life.
Oh, this is a Tokar knife. Do you know what ceremony young Luxon males use this for? On themselves? At that certain age?
Then I suspect the Dargo will want it back unharmed.
They do their own bris, apparently, and that's why they have bone knives.
That's the implication, at least. I mean, it's not.
Who knows what else? What even they've got?
It might be like doing the rings through his chest.
He's got the piercings through his collarbones.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that. You don't know. I mean, it is obviously heavily implied that it's something. Sexual organ related, but it's not said.
Hey, not everybody keeps their sexual organs in the same place.
Very true.
I thought that Zhaan showed herself to be an excellent diplomat. Like, she convinces Rigel to do it after he dismisses her.
I mean, she had a little bit of flattering. It's like the way she addresses
him.
Your
Eminence.
Yes.
And then he... proceed.
Yes.
With permission, Your Eminence.
Yes.
She's got his number.
He's dialed in, like he has a hard time refusing what she asks for him. And then we have
Dargo and Aeryn
then sitting in a tree. BITCHING, but it's which is more like it. Because we see some of the space hicks walking past the tree, and about 10 seconds later, Dargo goes like, okay, that's long enough, they're gone now. It's like, no, they're not. They're like, they can still see them.
That was Aeryn.
It's been long enough. I say we go.
Not quite yet.
Aeryn is the impatient one, which struck me as so weird, because you'd expect her to have better training than that.
You'd think so, yeah.
And he's the one who counsels patience and wisdom.
Those hounds are still out there. They could track us down in a second.
And they get into a little bit of an argument about the Grisolians.
Grisolians?
She does not think much of Luxons, which is his species.
Yeah.
The war against the Grisolians.
Oh, yeah, they have a little bit, but we're like, they inflicted dreadful war crimes on us, and then we did it back to them, but we had no choice.
We had no alternative to that either.
I'm sure the Grisolians said the same thing.
And no resolution. I kind of love that.
That is pretty much what a lot of war is about. There's a slight, and then the other side decides to strike back for it, and then the other side uses that to strike back again, because the first one was obviously warranted, and this one is just an act of terrorism.
Yeah,
that's how.
When we do it, it's heroism. When they do it, it's cowardice.
Exactly.
Now, undisputed heroism is what Zhaan displays when she, using her powers as a 9th level Pa'u.
You are a 9th level Pa'u.
Ah, yes.
She sort of brain melds with Moya, pressing her cheek up against one of these vaults.
She does Misty's mysterious cheek rub against the
She's got sort of a feline attitude about her.
I don't know. Well, yeah, it's like she does like, I'm going to hug, like her tree hugger's lullaby against one of the supporting ribs or whatever, what part of the ship it is.
Ribs is a good word. And then her eyes like roll backwards and we see the whites of her eyes, the sclera, and then they roll up more and then we see like blue dots as if she's got another set of, sort of pupils construction on the other side. And she's helping to bear Moya's suffering as
Airbrows uses the bristle knife to start cutting away, which I noticed that he did rather clumsily, which at first I thought was just the puppeteering, but actually this is referred to back later when he literally says like, I don't even know how to hold a tool properly.
That's right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I've always had others to do for me. Even in prison, I don't even know how to hold a tool.
I thought that was just the puppeteer's inability to actually hold that thing properly, and it turns out to be actually a thing which became part of the character that they thought to address through a line of text.
It's very well done. I mean, it gives another moment for Zhaan and Rigel to talk to each other. And
There is great pain in this for all of us, isn't there?
Because he is like riddled with insecurities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
As bullies often are.
And the first attempt doesn't go very well. It's like Misty kind of like passed out at this point already. Or was that later that she does a proper pass out?
It's shortly after. First we have a scene where Lyneea makes dinner and then the divining dildo goes off because there's chlorium in the dinner as well, leading to like a bit of a miscommunication and Crichton getting pretty aggressive because this is what we need, and she's terrified for her son.
And he at first he thought that she might have tried to poison him or something, that she would because the fertilizer comment earlier on.
Hell, for all I know, this stuff could be horribly toxic for you.
Did she like put something in his food that wasn't supposed to be in there? And stress, the amount of distrust.
Yeah, because he is a fish out of water. He has no idea he has no context for anything that's happening around him.
Nor do they. I mean, they have their own thing, but they're dealing with an alien who's suddenly in their living room.
Waving a beeping thing all around, and when she reaches for her deboning dildo, he grabs it and points it at her, and then eventually he realizes what he's doing, that this mother and son are terrified of him.
Gee, I'm sorry.
I greatly respect it. Like he immediately hands the weapon to them.
Oh yeah. He manages to get hold of the BB gun or whatever it is. Yeah, the space sappy, the deboner.
The deboner. Yeah. Back on the ship, Zhaan is passed out. Back in the house, there was a lot of scene flipping back and forth.
There was.
And all of it seemed to take an awfully long time. But now the military has arrived.
It's a military.
Commander Ryymax with his way back sideburns.
Commander Mutton Chops, who was
with his cool hat.
I mean, I've seen worse Commander Mutton Chopses, but this one's pretty good as far as
and he's got just this gold bell on the front, not even a badge or anything. It's just a shiny brass knob. Oh no, it's worse. I'm just zooming in on it now.
X chromosome or something on his lapel.
No, I mean the thing on his hat. It looks like a gentleman's donger with foreskin.
Oh, it does a bit.
Cast in bronze. It's just a bronze cast.
And he's got this weird cravat that he's wearing. Which
he's a styling gentleman.
It took me a while to realize, is that actually part of him or is it part of the outfit?
He's just had a lot of neck
waddle.
Know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're aliens. We haven't seen an adult male yet.
You're the female of your species, right?
Rigel has meanwhile had his moment of panic and insecurity where Aeryn tries to convince him to get back to it, and he bites her arm and swallows a chunk of it.
Oh yes, he goes vicious all of a sudden. Yes. What was the fight about? Why did he suddenly bite her again? I can't.
He refused to go back in and continue the operation.
That was it.
He was so insecure.
Yeah.
We need to remove the device right now.
If you do it, you do it without me.
But you're the only one small enough.
And he didn't want the gross knife anymore, I guess.
Well, it's like you've already handled it once. It doesn't really make a difference to keep your hand on it.
Zhaan manages to convince him after all. Offers to heal Aeryn's arm.
The military, which is I also noticed, they had the typical weird jumpsuits. It was a little bit Chernobyl on me because I had the gas masks on.
Yeah.
And I guess it was like
those gas masks and the sort of trench helmets.
I guess that's probably a good way to save on makeup, you know? It's like, we'll just give all the... Instead of having to give all the military guys extensive alien makeup, we'll just put gas masks on them and it'll be fine. And now they're military.
Oh, but they needed the helmets because the distinctive feature of this species is like the jaws being swept back into the ears. So they'd have to cover that part of their head, which helmets usually don't.
I mean, human helmets wouldn't, yes.
Exactly.
But, a combination of a good helmet and a gas mask, and you can, you don't have to, give makeup. You just give them a jumpsuit and, some sort of black thing over the top. You find it in the clothes rack at the back of the prop department.
Speaking of good helmets...
Are we back on that knob thing on his hat?
No, his little brass knob that he's got. No. Lyneea, while she's keeping the military dudes distracted, she's got Crichton hidden in the back of her radio telescope shack.
My parents bought me a telescope. I used to look up at the stars at night and dream about.
And he's fiddling with the lab equipment there until he gets a signal through to Moya, which their comms can't because she's so underwater and
yes, she helps him with that. She goes this is going to be broadcasting as in a broad spectrum, as strong as I can get it. Signal.
And she gets to see Pilot.
Moya is bearing up.
Is this guy more what you expected?
Helping all she can.
Ah, yes, and she goes now that's an alien, the way I imagined them. You can see how she suddenly becomes much more interested and okay.
And now we're dealing with on her face.
Yes, now we're dealing with real aliens, not weird-looking people like us, It's like some dude with an underdeveloped jaw or something.
Yeah. Shortly followed by another weird-looking alien, which is Dargo, who's been captured by a bunch of these
yes. Apparently when Aeryn went back to the ship, Dargo made good on his promise to go and find Crichton.
Continuing to flip back and forth for
Misty
the
does more
time.
cheek rubbing. Dargo's captured, saved again, takes his time.
Well, while he's captured, I noticed he's sort of hung up with his arms above him, and I noticed something about the costume. How his costume doesn't it has open spaces under the armpits.
Yeah,
which in the pilot episode in the premiere showed skin. But now he's got.
He's wearing an
mesh.
Undershirt. He's wearing an undershirt, which still leaves his chest bare, so you can see his.
Hey, when you've got a chest like that,
you can see his clavicle rings.
What's a clavicle piercing called?
I don't know. A clavicle piercing?
Oh, come on! They have names you have geishas and you have PAs and you have
I'm sure. I mean, there might be a name. Yeah,
you get to name it. The first historical or cultural reference that pops into mind, why is it Prince Albert? What does that even mean? So just name it whatever.
Well, okay.
Yeah, you feel the responsibility because we're going to call that for another 87 episodes.
I know.
It's a big responsibility riding on their shoulders.
Oh, those pieces. I think they're called a Banja Luka.
A what?
A Banja Luka.
What's a Banja Luka?
I think it's a city in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but that's where they were probably invented them. So we're going to call it a Banja Luka.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just not very well versed in this. I thought that maybe you opened the Wikipedia app on your phone and hit random page and said whatever. No, okay. So.
No.
But meanwhile, Crichton comes to the rescue because there's two of these gas helmeted guards are left behind to watch Dargo and Fostro finding the comm badge in the barn where Crichton had originally dropped it. He's entranced by this monstrous alien, distracting the guards so that Crichton can come in with a shovel. And apparently these shovels work against helmets.
Yes,
so,
I mean, if you hit them underneath the helmet, in the neck area, that's pretty much hitting people until they're unconscious is never a good idea,
Yeah, you only go unconscious from brain damage.
Brain damage.
You have no brain damage, as far as we can tell.
Yes, essentially. I mean, if you're knocked out and you're out for more than a minute or so, then you have at least a concussion and probably more. It's go to a hospital. It's
yes, that's very good advice. If you're listening to this and you've been unconscious for more than 5 minutes, there you go. Then please go to a hospital.
Especially if it's from listening to this podcast. Warn us if you.
Oh no! We're so sorry. We didn't mean it.
Yes,
we didn't mean it.
So he unties Dargo in front of the gape-mouthed freckle boy.
Yes.
And it's kind of this cool uncle moment, hey, pretty tough alien. You want to shake his hand?
Hey, kid. Want to shake his hand?
And yes.
Yeah.
They go like,
and
hi.
Dargo does it. And he's into it.
He's like, okay, hi. Dargo gets introduced to Lyneea.
What kind of ship are you? That thing on the computer in there, and now this one trying to pull down my barn. You said you were a scientist, a science ship.
Ah, yeah, who hands them all the
yes, whatever it's called.
The chlorium stuff.
Onlux. Just onlux.
Wax on lux, wax off lux.
Actually, she had pounds and pounds of it, so probably sugar.
It was red, also.
I noticed that.
And they say their goodbyes.
He gives her a kiss on the cheek.
Oh, that's,
Says,
yes. And that's when she goes into swooning Molly again.
Yes.
That's how your people say goodbye?
And I'm like, yeah, don't you? And like, oh.
What? Your people don't do that?
No, and she sort of Look, what did they do to say goodbyes?
I
did
guess.
they just sort of finger blast each other?
I don't know. And that's another sploosh moment that we move right into.
Oh, God,
because that's what Moira is doing.
Yeah.
I guess like this might be just swamp gushing in or something because like losing hull integrity. I don't know.
She's a spacecraft, so she'd be much better at keeping air in than keeping like anything out. Like the amount of pressure that she's under.
Definitely feeling the increased weight.
Is something like air trying to escape from a container in space. That's 1 atmosphere of pressure.
Also, it's
NBD.
like also the ship would be designed to hold something in, not hold something out. That's like, and it will probably put stresses on the frame, especially because it's an uneven pressure. Because now she's in the water.
Oh,
it's like,
it's not even uniform.
No, the stuff which is deeper is going to be under higher pressure than the stuff outside. Airbrows is flicking his like knife through the probes that have been stuck into her nervous center.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Moya, but I have to cut fast.
And he manages to work them out one at a time, even as Misty is like passing out for the third time from the pain she's sharing from Moira.
This is an awfully big ship.
Don't I know it?
Finally, our heroes are reunited back on board the ship, and with the beacon turned off, and with the supply of chlorium, they can leave again.
Airbrows gets given the chlorium, and he kind of goes kind of goes like spraying it around, like, okay, I plucked one of them out here, and he throws a handful on it, and he
start spreading this around. Everywhere you can.
Goes to the next point and he throws a handful there and he goes like, oh, and he stuffs them in his mouth.
Yes.
And then he goes, it's like casual, just throwing it around and spreading it over to numb the pain.
Anointing all of these wounds that he's just carved, and just licking his fingers and I'll have some for you, some for me, something the typical ritual fashion.
And then this lovely departure of the planet again.
Up rises Moya, and she's so gorgeous in the blue hour, crossing through the clouds and into space.
Okay, so Lyneea doesn't even wake Freckles to like watch him like disappear, and so like, come on, like wake him up, at least like have him see the departure of the ship. I would say,
she knows her son. She knows he needs his. I thought it was kind of touching. Like, you don't need to wake me up for that. I know I'm one of the alien knowers now.
No, that makes sense, I suppose.
And that he's going to have a story to tell.
Someday you are going to have a very singular story to tell.
Well, someday. I mean, not right now, obviously.
No, like it'll take a long time before you can tell this story.
Can't tell for a long time, of course, but someday.
And then Crichton stands there, like a little bit melancholy, looking at the planet, which, as he has said before, reminds him of home, which he had got chided about. Like, oh, this like dump, it's wet and it's
no interplanetary travel, retrograde technology, fossil fuel burning ground vehicles. He is a savage.
Fossil fuel, like they're savages. And Aeryn asks him if he's like, don't tell me you miss this rock.
No, not that rock.
Which I loved how ambiguous it was.
Right, yes.
Does he mean his own rock? Does he mean the people that he met there?
I got I missed that nuance in not that rock. I thought he was like I thought he said not the rock and was referring to Freckles and swooning Molly.
It's his melancholy, I think, that
but it makes sense
so
that he's
interesting.
just like he's actually missing Earth and just like kind of reminded him of Earth. Probably kicked Dagobah. Yes.
And then Aeryn asked him about it. Dagobah, where Yoda lives.
It's like,
who's Yoda?
Just a little green guy. Trains warriors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in this universe, that makes perfect sense. That's no sense in explaining it, which I thought was kind of touching as well, because like Frank Oz, who plays Yoda, has also been like part of the Henson team, of course.
So what did you think of this as a second episode?
Okay, so it reminded me a little bit of a Battlestar Galactica original series episode.
Paging the head Cylon.
Where Apollo gets stranded on a primitive planet where he gets stuck in a cabin with a woman and a fresh-faced young boy with a rifle. And so there were some serious parallels there. I mean, like in that case, the biggest there were two threats. One was a wolf,
big bad wolf,
or Lupo as they refer to it
constantly.
Of course. And the other one was a Cylon, was Centurion, which was had his memory wiped and was used by the local gangster as a gunslinger hero. And
you're sort of losing the point where this was reminding you of that, though.
Okay, no, but that's
we didn't have a mind-wiped robot. But we did have the hounds, the sort of space hounds,
I suppose, and we had the woman on her own with her small son out in the boonies, and suddenly
Little House on the Perseus arm.
That's the one. That's the one. And suddenly aliens.
So it was a bit of a departure from the first episode, where this is all like planet bound. This is like a weekly adventure, which is kind of what the show really at its core is. It's a television series with weekly adventures.
There's something which the crew is settling into, and I mean it kind of worked, because like especially having this control color like emergency beacon go off quite so soon makes sense, that it doesn't like happen like 6 weeks later.
And all of these arguments that they had wouldn't have made sense in coming in episode 7 the way that it aired. I noticed that when I saw it as well. Like they regressed so much. They developed like trust in each other, and now he's accusing her of not telling them.
Exactly,
it's very confusing.
It's good character development. I would say that in an interesting setting. So it works. I mean, I think Misty still gets the short end of the stick. She's like the most underdeveloped character at this point.
Hey, that's what you get for just being beautiful and reasonable all the time.
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds farbot.
Yeah, I suppose.
Then you just don't get a lot of screen time.
And she gets to hug the ship and like do her like cheek rub of affection or something.
I wonder if that's sort of related to what she gave Crichton in the first episode.
It might have been. Like that might just be her thing, like her priestal powers. It's like it's not the fourth it's not the fourth sensation, but the seventh,
which is an eargasm.
I mean, maybe that's why Airbrows is so into it.
Ryymax. No, sorry, wrong franchise. And that's the story so far, Farscape.
We'll see you next week with episode 103, Exodus from Genesis. When Aeryn's sun is getting hot, John Crichton is on a steep learning curve, and Peacekeeper starts seeing double or triple.
You can find us at So Farscape on Twitter and Facebook, and on SoFarscape.com. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay. So Farscape, so good.